You're trying so hard to keep everything together. You're trying to manage your life, your work, solve everyone's issues, make sure everyone's okay. And the way that you go to do that is you try to take control of everything. And the problem with that is that when you try to take control, you actually create more problems for yourself because you're going to be frustrated, you're going to be stressed out, you're going to be burned out. And the thing that you're trying to do to help you, which is to feel more safe and secure and grounded, is actually causing more of your problems. And then you're trying to figure out, why is life not going the way that I want? What can I do about it? So you're believing that control equals safety. At least a part of your mind does. Your subconscious mind thinks that if you stay in control or you can gain more control, then you're going to be safe. And then what you end up doing is that you end up, in a way, micromanaging all the aspects of your life. Think of all the things that you might do this in, whether it is at work, with coworkers, projects, things that you're trying to solve at home, with keeping up with the house, kids, marriage. But what you don't understand in that subconscious reaction, you're actually causing more struggle than you are able to find peace. Anytime we try to react with stress, with more stress, control, to-do lists, more performing, more seeking of the outcome, we're actually creating more of our problem. So what can you do to counter that? And here's one thing that you can do right now. Just relax your body. You take a deep breath. It's not going to solve the problem that you think that you have to solve like immediately, but you're giving yourself a moment to not be in control. So you're practicing doing that just in the moment. So take a moment and do that. You can do that right now. And when you pause and when you go into that present moment, the mind doesn't know what's going on, but you're sending a signal to your body and you're reprogramming your mind to make that shift, to relax and let go of control. You can probably even notice where this is coming up for you, whether it's the beginning of the week or going into the end of the week or like the weekend. You can notice somewhere, I'm sure, in your life where there's some place where you're trying to take too much control or you're overstressing about it. So just notice where that might be showing up for you, or something that you're anticipating is going to cause you problems or stress. So the mindset shift here is that you don't actually need to be in control to be safe. And you have to be able to talk to yourself in that way and reassure yourself in that way. Your mind's looking for these ways to solve a problem, and the only ways that it knows how to do. And the thing is that your mind is never going to be satisfied. So when we go to our mind to try to solve these problems, we're actually going to create more stress because we're trying to control the situation by our thinking. We're trying to overthink or outthink the problem. At what point in your life have you been able to handle situations without having to have all the solutions, the answers, or knowing the outcome? Think about a time in your life that you've been able to overcome just by allowing things to be and trusting yourself that you'll know that you'll have the answer or the proper action or reaction when the time comes. So you probably learned that by taking responsibility, or when you think about taking responsibility, the best thing to do or the way to do that is by taking control of a situation, or implementing something where you're trying to get the outcome to kind of obey or listen to what you want. Like it's your expected outcome, regardless of what might be better if you just let things kind of happen on their own. But counterintuitively to the mind, trust in ourself is actually what gives us the ability to let go and have the solution come to us. And when we do that, we're not creating more stress for the situation. So you can probably relate to this. If you stress about something that's already causing you stress, you just create more stress. It's like being angry because you're angry. It's like being upset because you're upset. If you add more of what's already happening to your experience, you're just going to get more of the same. So if the desire is to have an outcome that satisfies or actually helps or brings peace or resolution, then trying to control a situation is only going to bring the opposite. So here's a simple practice you can do just to kind of just get familiar with what it would look like to kind of change the way that you handle certain situations. So we're talking about stressful situations, and this is a go-to for me. It's very, very simple, but I promise you it's gonna help in a way that your mind can't predict or understand. So your mind's probably gonna say something like, hey, what's this gonna do? How's this gonna help me? But just hang with me here, And I'm going to give you these simple steps you can follow just to kind of give you an idea what it feels like to ground yourself back in the present moment and let go of control. Okay, just so we can get on the same page in terms of what does it look like to actually like relax and give up control in a practical way instead of just talking about the concept. So what you can do is notice where the need to control shows up in your body. It's typically going to show up in some type of sensation or emotional form. And what's going to happen is, it's like, for example, like in your emotions, in your chest, tightening, pointing here to the top of my gut here, negative emotion of fear, anxiety. And then if we're talking about anxiety, that can show up in different ways, like, nervousness, rapid heart rate, a tightening in our jaw and our shoulders, right? So there's other bodily sensations that we can feel along with any type of emotion. And predominantly with control, the mind doesn't want to be out of control. Okay, so that's going to produce a state of being that's typically anxious or fearful, especially if we can come down to that and then understand where that's showing up in our thoughts and in our body and our bodily sensations. We want to bring our attention there. Then just pause with a slight breath. So as I'm breathing in, I'm just allowing and noticing. No judgment, no fighting, no need to control, none of that. Just notice with that pause. And then following up with a simple affirmation. Just trusting it's going to be all right. I've dealt with this before. This is difficult, but it's going to work out. Some type of affirmation that lets you know that there is actually no need to be in control. I don't need to be in control to be okay with this. So I'm doing kind of an experiment that's ongoing for myself. Most of the time, it's at home. It can also be when I'm working or anything else where I'm noticing the need from my mind to take over, be in control, to stress, to overthink. And what I'm doing is I'm just noticing moments, and it goes back into that simple practice. Like, where is that showing up in my body? Where is that showing up that it's giving me an opportunity to, once I notice where I'm feeling the need to control or that stress or that overwhelm, can I challenge myself to relax? And it's just a different mindset shift than trying to solve the problem. So the practice isn't, right, like how many problems I can solve. How can I quickly get to the solution to this problem? The practice is actually just relaxing. Can I challenge myself to slow my thinking down, right? To slow my process down. And the first thing that my mind wants to do to counteract that or combat that is to say I'm being lazy or I'm not being responsible or I'm just trying to avoid. But it's actually counter to that. It's actually the opposite. What you're doing, or like what I'm doing here in this experiment, is I'm leaning right into the experience but without judgment and without a need to fix or solve. Again, to the mind, like, this makes no sense at all. Don't worry about that. Your mind's not going to understand any of this stuff. And you have to just be comfortable with that kind of dissonance between your thinking mind and then your greater intention or what you actually want. So if I want peace, if I want clarity, if I want to be in a place where I'm more grounded, I can't just listen to the mind that says more doing, more the same old, because I'm just going to end up kind of like stuck in this place where I'm at the very least, I'm not going to be able to take any action at all. So I'm doing my practice and I'm leaning into the moment where I would usually take control or micromanage. Instead, I'm just going to not say anything, for example. I'm just going to relax, right? And again, this is just an experiment. It's not like I can't figure out oh, well, maybe there was a time where I interjected with something, like with a question or some type of statement there that's more helpful. But it's okay, because all I'm doing is I'm trying to strengthen a different muscle of being connected and being able to genuinely help. That's not from a place of control. So some of the things that I've noticed is that I'll be less apt to cut people off, especially like my family, like my wife, my kids. I typically don't do this with other people, and I'm sure you don't either. But the thing is that you're noticing where oh wait, what happens if I don't have to say something right now? What happens if I don't have to share my opinion? Or what happens if I let my kids kind of go through their thing where they're fighting, and they're causing disruption. I still want to be attentive. I still want to be able to come in and do, like in this case, like parent well, but I don't need to do that. I can give it a little bit of space. One thing I've found is that predominantly, like, I'm much more relaxed and allowing, and then I'm also building that muscle of trust that I don't have to step in, and that things can solve themselves in a more of a natural way, especially like with kids. You know, kids are going to start learning their own ability to take responsibility for their feelings, their thoughts, you know, their behaviors as it comes to dealing with conflict. And then also, like when I'm working with clients and I want them to be able to find the solutions to their problems, and maybe I have an idea or I have a thought. The thing is that if I slow down, I can notice where letting go of that control might actually be the thing that gives them the space to then have their own revelation or epiphany that they need. Because ultimately, you and I both know that the solutions to our problems don't come from someone giving you the solution, right? Like, you have to be able to find it on your own within yourself and then accept that truth and that reality to be anyway. And so all of this practice has really helped me find basically like a better way to like chill out and not have to stress and worry, and notice how things still get done, and notice how things still find a solution and work out. And I don't have to have that negative consequence that's going on in my body, creating that stress. And then I'm also retraining my mind and learning I'm just a part of life. I don't have to control things. Like, I don't have to stranglehold based on what I think to be true. And that's a really freeing experience to be able to notice and embody. And again, our minds are going to combat all of this. Our minds are going to tell us, like, this is not something that we should be doing, or not taking responsibility. You're lazy. You're being selfish, and it has nothing to do with any of those things. There's a different level of intelligence that we're reaching when we're taking care of our own state of being, and we're allowing ourselves to be more a part of life and our experience than it is by thinking that our intellect or our problem-solving abilities have to be the ultimate solution for what we perceive as a problem. And again, that problem can be outside of us. That problem can be going on in our feelings or in our thinking. But it's moving to a different level of intelligence to see ourselves and actually embody that we're a part of life. We're being lived, and we're not the ones in control of having to live it. And I really like the analogy of playing golf, and I haven't played in a few years. Just to be upfront, like, I'm not a good golfer. I'm okay, but the thing that I love to go back in my mind and think about golf, even though I don't play as much anymore. When I'm playing my best golf, I'm relaxed, right? I'm allowing the club to like do the work. My intention is to move my body in a way, and I'm almost imagining where I want the ball to go, but I'm not like gripping the club too tight, because you know what happens. You're either gonna slice or hook or worm burn the ball into the ground, right? So there's a flow. So imagine that your intention for whatever it is that you're wishing is kind of like the same thing as like, all right, so here's where I want the ball to go, but I've got all these moving parts, right? I got the club, I got my hips, I got my hands, I got my shoulders, I gotta, keep my head a certain way. And all of that can't happen if I'm trying to take control of each individual part, because and if you play golf, you're gonna know this. Like, you're gonna screw up your shot. The less I'm trying to control where the ball goes, and the more I'm just focusing on my intention on how I know how to swing the club. And then once I hit the ball, right, the ball's gonna go where it's gonna go. I don't have to obviously I can't micromanage where the ball goes. I mean, it's flying through the air. But the thing is that, I have one job, and that is just to be in the flow of the moment, right? But if I'm thinking of every single individual part, and I'm trying to control like how my hips are moving and how my hands are holding the club, and then, my backswing, and then my follow through, like, you're not gonna hit the ball well. That's just like anything in life. The more that we try to over control, the more that we try to do what we think we should be doing in terms of what we think is the best, right? Or, we're not being open to solutions, we're not being curious. We're typically gonna get into a space where we're over managing. And it's the same thing. It's the same thing as golfing. So all you really need to do is start becoming aware. That's it. You don't have to fix anything. You don't have to solve anything. And again, another thing that the mind is just gonna say, like, this makes no sense at all. But I'm telling you, and maybe I make another video about this, like, when your mind it starts saying those things, like you're in the right spot. Begin to see the pattern. Don't fix. Just notice the pattern. Even if you go ahead and do the thing that you wish, you wouldn't have done or you could do better, like just notice that pattern. And then notice where inside that pattern, you tend to take control. You tend to grip, if we're using the golf analogy. Certain things are going to get you to want to take more control than others. Like they're just, everyone's got their own thing. Like everyone's got their own things that activate them. I got a good recipe I like to cook, a chili recipe. Sometimes my wife likes to make it. Part of me wants to like make sure that she's like doing the ingredients right. Like, but she wants to hear none of that. But like me noticing those patterns and then relaxing in my own state of being is a lot more effective than me trying to like manage how much of an ingredient she puts in or whatever. Like it's not going to be helpful. Like who cares? So it's off a little bit. Maybe she finds out something that makes it better. But if I'm trying to control everything, I'm not going to be able to be in that state. I'm going to be overstressing. And again, you're going to feel it in your body. You're gonna notice these consequences come out in your life. So the mind's also gonna say things like, if I stop managing, everything's gonna fall apart. It's not. Things are not gonna fall apart if you stop managing. If anything, as you begin to relax, things will actually start to take shape. I will say though, that there will be things that will change and then your mind will freak out about that. I've got a client who is learning how to do the things that we're talking about, and he's noticing that his motivation for his work is going down. And so he used to get his motivation from being competitive and trying to control the results, right? That would, like, his drive to win was driving his impact at work and all the things, his productivity. So as he's losing that desire, he's afraid his productivity is going to go down. Those type of things you might notice, but that's not going to be an ultimate problem, and I'll tell you why. Because your mind is being reconditioned to deal with the reality it's perceiving. It's going to have to recondition itself into being okay with the present and how things operate. And so I'm sure that you have had leaders in the past that you've worked for or around, and the leaders that you like working for give you autonomy and the ability to make mistakes, and the leaders you don't like working for are micromanaging, and they're on top of you all the time, or they had been, and they're more hypercritical about what you're doing so that they can get the things that they want to get done. As you give yourself the ability to have the latitude to learn and grow, what's going to happen is, and the same thing with the client I'm talking about, your mind's going to be reconditioned into becoming more comfortable and familiar with the things that you actually value. So you're going to discover new things that provide new motivation and new focus and new intention on how to actually get the results that you want to see. So, it wouldn't be surprising to see, as someone goes through a process, let's take work for an example, and they have some reconsideration and like recalibration on what actually motivates them for their work, that when they start to discover what more of what they love, that the results and the productivity actually increase, and it's more sustainable and it's less stressful. I understand too, like, to the mind, like, that's a scary leap, but at the same time, like, we're talking about helping your life be more peaceful, be more grounded, right? Be less stressed out, have better health, all of those things, better relationships. Like, so this is what we're talking about. We're not talking about, what the mind wants, which is more productivity, more of the same, more control, more, perceived safety, even though it's at the cost of your sanity. And really overall, what we're talking about is coming to a place where we're understanding even the idea of being in control is actually an illusion. It's always been an illusion, right? It's a propped up concept that the mind has adopted or believed to be true. And as all these other things in your life are changing, right, your mind can't keep up with propping up that illusion anymore. It actually doesn't even exist. And when we understand that, we can get even more curious about where are my tendencies to try to take more control, to stress out more, to do more. And I can be more curious because I already know, like, this is just an illusion. It doesn't actually even exist. And honestly, like, that's where I would recommend, if I had any wish for you, would be, hey, you end up in a spot where you can become more curious. You don't need any more like perfection goals, another thing on your to-do list to do, but just like, hey, I can understand, or I'm beginning to understand, like this is all just something that I believe to be true, this idea of control. It actually isn't, and now I can be more curious with how to practice. What is life like when I give up these ideas, when I give up this illusion? My name's John. I'm a coach. I'm a therapist. If this video spoke to you, if you're interested in learning more about what life looks like when you're more in a state of being than doing, then go ahead and sign up for my newsletter. I'll leave that in the description and in the comments. I've got a men's community online, small group of guys. Keep it really simple. It's just sharing, coming together on common ideas and things that we can all relate to, helping each other out that way. Great community. And then I've got the one-on-one coaching, which you can do there. Sign up for time to meet with me, 30 minutes. We'll talk about how you can find more clarity and understanding of your life, what you want. And love to meet with you. I'd love to talk with you. So hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time.